Hey, I'm Paul Rabley, and in this video, we're going to talk about how to protect your home for your disabled child if you go to a nursing home. All right, so this video is based on a request that was made in one of the comments that I made earlier, comments to one of the videos that I made earlier. And let me set it up because, man, I have over the years dealt, being an estate planning attorney for 30 years, helping thousands of individuals and couples and families, have dealt with my share of families or parents who, had to raise a disabled child. And boy, I know that takes a lot of effort and affection, and there's a special place up there for people, parents who devote that time and effort and love to raising a disabled child. Probably one of the reasons those parents aren't wealthy is because they spent so much, not only effort, but of the financial resources and the sacrifices they made to make the life for their disabled child as good as it can be. So really admire those parents who have done that. And then we have this, our government has this system which in general says, and it would be terrible if parents who raise one or more disabled children and then they spend all of their resources doing it, and then they work hard to have a home, and then they have to go into a nursing home, get on Medicaid, and Medicaid says, sorry, but when you pass away, we're gonna punch you in the face and snatch that home away from you, even though you have a disabled child. Fortunately, it doesn't have to be that way, because there's some special provisions in our state's Medicaid manual, and I live and work as a lawyer, as an estate planning lawyer in Louisiana. I know that the Medicaid program is a federal program administered by the individual states. Many states have similar Medicaid regulations, but don't take my word for it if you live in a state outside of Louisiana. But there's two real rules here that if you have a disabled child, you really need to be made aware of, and potentially make sure you take advantage of these rules to make things as good as they can be for your family and your disabled child. Okay. Because the general rule is if parents go into a nursing home, one or both of them, they've got to spend all their money down to nothing or next to nothing. The state doesn't mess with the home, but if one or both parents go into a nursing home and get on Medicaid, then the state has these estate recovery rights so that after both spouses pass away, the state can force the home to be sold to reimburse Medicaid for Medicaid payments that it had made for the parents, while the parents were in the nursing home. So there's some exceptions to these rules when there are disabled children involved, and I want to go through those with you. The first one is what can parents do while they're alive? The other is what happens when the parents pass away. So I'm going to go over the first rule is the general rule is if you transfer your home out of your name, or if you transfer your money out of your name before you go into a nursing home, then that's going to create this transfer of asset penalty where you're ineligible for Medicaid for, let's say, 5 years. Well, we have a provision in our Medicaid Eligibility Manual where there are exceptions to the application of the transfer of asset penalties. So I'm going to read the one that affects parents with disabled children. So the rule says, and there's typos here, it says the transferred is the individual's home. I guess it should say the transferred asset is the individual's home, and title to the home is transferred to the individual's child who is blind or permanently and totally disabled as defined by SSI at the time of the transfer. The age at onset of disability is not a factor. So what that says, parents have a disabled child, disabled as defined by SSI at the time of the transfer, then the parents can transfer the home to the child, and none of these 5-year penalty period, ineligible for Medicaid, kind of stuck, none of those penalty periods apply when you transfer the title of your home to your child who is I'm assuming either blind or permanently and totally disabled as defined by SSI at the time of the transfer. Okay, so that's the one issue that parents with disabled children need to be aware of. The second is what happens if you don't do this and then parents pass away and there's a disabled child? Is Medicaid going to be able to exercise its estate recovery rights to snatch that home away from the family? Because it does say, very first paragraph of our Louisiana Medicaid Eligibility Manual, estate recovery rules, as required by federal regulations. The federal laws require states to do this, I suppose, in order to get the funding for Medicaid. As required by federal regulations, the state must seek recovery of Medicaid payments for long-term care facility services, home and community-based services, and related hospital and prescription drug services from the estate of an individual who was age 55 or older when such services were received. Okay, so that's Estate Recovery 101. So the idea, you go into a nursing home, they don't take your home, but your home's in your estate, you die, Medicaid had spent $250,000 on your care, Medicaid says we have a lien on your home, home's got to be sold, reimburse Medicaid for the $250,000, if that $250,000 is even there. Okay, so second scenario is parents don't transfer the home to their disabled child while they're alive. Parents own the home when they pass away and they face or they're subject to this estate recovery. Well, fortunately, they added provisions to our Louisiana Medicaid Eligibility Manual to say that, recovery can only be made after the death of the recipient's surviving spouse. So that means they can't recover it until after both spouses pass away. And then it also says, and I'm putting words together, recovery can only be made after the death of the recipient's surviving spouse, if any, and only at the time when the recipient has no surviving child under age 21 or a child who is blind or disabled as defined by SSA, Social Security Administration. So what they're saying in the state estate recovery laws is that recovery can only be made when the Medicaid recipient has no surviving child under age 21. Most people who go on Medicaid in a nursing home and then pass away, when they pass away, it's not likely that they're going to have a surviving child under age 21. But the other exception is recovery can only be made when the recipient has no child who is blind or disabled as defined by SSA. So even if the home is in that parent's estate, if when they pass away, if they had, the parent had been on Medicaid, there's not going to be any estate recovery, as long as this is followed, that they left a child who is blind or disabled as defined by the Social Security Administration. It doesn't necessarily say, though, that the house has to go to the disabled child, whereas in the transfer it during your lifetime, it says the transfer has to be made to the child. In the estate recovery provisions, it doesn't say the house has to be left to that child. It just says there's no recovery when the recipient, left a child who is blind or disabled. So anyway, just a little nugget there. Okay, so that video, like I said, was based on a request. I really like the requests. The requests typically come in the form of a comment to another video. So feel free to in the comments below, if there's an issue that you'd like to see addressed in a video, feel free to let me know. I typically don't answer legal questions in the comments, but if there's just a general subject I can talk about in a video, that's something that's easier for me to do, because I don't want to try to give legal advice in the comments when I don't know the whole story. Okay, so 2 or 3 other things I'd like you to do. One, hit the subscribe button. If you hit the subscribe button and then the notification bell, that tells YouTube, hey, when I pull up YouTube and Rabelais has put up some more videos, just put put them, let me know, and so I can watch it if I want to. And then, thumbs up if you feel like it provides value. Check out the community tab where I'm starting to post a few text items and some polls and some photographs that you can see more fun stuff. It's kind of surrounding the making of these videos. Okay, so I think that does it for today. I got to get on the road. I got to go see a prospective client and his family who is wanting to make sure probate is avoided for his wife and make sure his children and grandchildren are taken care of. So I got to head out, and y'all have a great day. We'll see you next time.